Copyright music, I know I can't use mumbling words. I just saw the Lion King 2019 live action remake, and honestly, as a standalone film, it's pretty decent. If the original Lion King didn't exist, then this film would be pretty good. Unfortunately, because the original Lion King does exist, this is pretty bad. The live-action Lion King movie is basically a shot-for-shot pale imitation of the original, but it has some major flaws in it that really bring down the overall movie. I know a lot of people have made videos on it already, but I'm going to try to bring up some new points that I personally saw that I don't think anyone else has talked about thus far. Before I start, I just want to say The Lion King is most definitely the thing that turned me into a furry. I mean, it was a huge part of my childhood. Honestly, I blame my parents now for my addiction to anthropomorphic animals. Thank you, Mom and Dad. I want you to know exactly how obsessed I was with The Lion King. I had Lion King 1, Lion King 1.5, Lion King 2. I spent a lot of my time playing the video games that came with the CD of the movie. You know, back when movies had those TV remote video games that you could just play right off the title screen. And some of the first porn I ever saw was actually a Rule 34 drawing of Shenzi. I'm not ashamed to say that. Kill me. So keeping this in mind, you might think that I have a bias going in with nostalgia for the first movie, but believe it or not, I was actually excited when they first announced this. I was like, oh, a fresh new take on The Lion King. Interesting. Hot take, but I kind of liked the Jungle Book live-action remake, and Jungle Book was also a huge part of my childhood, so you can't really say I'm biased for the traditional cartoons. However much I may like them, I'm still willing to accept the live-action ones, if they weren't this bad. Without further ado, sit tight, my stillborn cubs. My name is Unded Meowth. Let's just jump right into the news. Number 1. Pacing. One thing the original Lion King does really well is they're not afraid to let scenes play out longer than many other films would feel comfortable with. For example, in the original Lion King, when Simba is going up to his father, after disobeying him by going to the elephant graveyard to try to prove to his dad that he is brave and strong and shouldn't be treated like a kid, you see Simba timidly walking towards him. His body is close to the ground and his head is looking upwards while the camera is angled down at him, showing how small and scared and weak he is compared to his father, and the disappointment he feels for not being able to prove himself worthy of being king. As he's walking, his paw lands in the middle of a paw print made by his father, showing that he has big shoes to fill. And it makes him question whether or not he'll ever be worthy of being king. You can feel every emotion Simba is feeling without any dialogue happening whatsoever. Now in the remake, the scene lasted for about half the time the original scene lasted for. Simba's paw still lands in his dad's paw print, but it seems almost forced. Another example is the opening scene Sunrise, which is probably the most iconic thing out of Lion King. In the original, the sun slowly crawls up, but in the remake, the sun goes like 1,000,000 miles per hour, zooming straight into the sky. The opening scene was so powerful in the original because of how slow it was. It was a gradual build. I know I'm comparing this to the original a lot, but I'll explain later as to why I'm doing that. The cliff scene was poorly executed in my opinion. I'm going to talk about it a little later on when I get into my points about Scar, but again, it's a pacing issue. Instead of having Mufasa's face slowly turn into that of a grim realization that he is being betrayed by his brother, Scar just swipes at him. I think one of the biggest tragedies might have been Be Prepared, which is one of the most recognizable and beloved Disney villain songs of all time. They shaved an entire minute off of it, and half of the scene is just Scar jumping from rock pillar to rock pillar, which I know he does that in the cartoon, but at least in the cartoon, there's visual stuff going on other than Scar just jumping from rock to rock. There's geysers spewing hot green steam. The place is littered with bones. The entire environment makes you feel like you are witnessing something evil. In the live-action remake, it's so rushed that there's barely any personality to the scene whatsoever. It's almost like the director felt obligated to have Be Prepared in his movie, but he didn't actually want to put any of the heart or effort that was in the original. Number 2, Scar. Now look, I'm not saying that Scar has to be exactly the same as he was in the Disney cartoon. No matter how much I love Jeremy Irons' portrayal of the classic sleazeball, melancholy, overdramatic lion, I know for a fact that that was a one-time portrayal. But Chiwetel Ejiofor's portrayal was so one note, it lost all sense of uniqueness. I'll give him credit for making Scar seem depressed and nihilistic. He did that really well. However, there was like a negative 10 charisma modifier on this dude the entire time. Scar is a good villain because he's not just sinister, he has a sense of... The original Scar has a very distinct, sinister-like cadence to his voice. Here's a clip from the Lion King live-action trailer, and I hope to God that I don't get copyright struck for this, but there's a high likelihood I will because Disney is an asshole.
Life's not fair, is it, my little friend? While some are born to feast, others spend their lives in the dark. Begging for scraps.
That is the most amount of emotion Ejiofor puts into his performance throughout the entire movie. The scene where Scar tells Simba about the elephant graveyard, in particular, is when I noticed that the live-action portrayal is vastly inferior to that of the original. There isn't a clip of it on YouTube that I could show you, but instead of the original goading tone that Scar has towards Simba, almost daring his nephew to go, the live-action Scar very bluntly says, "Don't go to the elephant graveyard." It's the exact same lines from the original script, but the delivery makes it seem like Scar genuinely doesn't want Simba to go. Another issue I have with the live-action remake is Scar's sudden obsession with Sarabi. I mainly don't like this because of the fact that if by some slim margin someone has the god-awful idea at Disney to make a sequel to this, Zira would just be a random lion. Now if you don't know about your Lion King hidden lore, Zira was Scar's mate. Zira is also the mother of Kovu, who eventually marries Kira, who is the daughter of Simba, so it's somewhat incest, but not really, because
Scar wasn't even his father. He just took him in.
Anyways, I'm going on a tangent. And while this was one of the only new pieces of continuity added into the movie, it just felt weird and out of place. As I mentioned previously, the cliff scene was extremely disappointing. Ejiofor delivered a lot of his lines in short staccato sentences. While it works in the effect of making Scar a more militant dictator-like character, it sacrifices a whole bunch of emotion and personality that came with the original. Again, I'm not saying this movie had to remake Scar exactly the way he was before. I just wish that this rendition had some form of personality. Scar felt so empty from the lack of emotion in his voice. Number 3, the hyenas. This might come as a shock to some people, but I fucking love hyenas. I also really like the dynamic the original hyenas had in the first Lion King. I also like Eric Andre. Eric Andre plays a hyena in this movie. You know what sucks about it? They give him nothing to do. Shenzi, Bankai, and Ed had a lot going for them in the original Lion King. They joked around with each other, they made puns. You could tell that these hyenas have been friends for a long time. In the live-action movie, Shenzi is Hyena Queen, and Ed and what I could assume is Bankai are basically two incompetent idiots. There's no chemistry between any of the hyena characters. This is a cackle of hyenas, and there's no development for them whatsoever. Yeah, they try to make Shenzi more independent and more of a badass female. And honestly, I don't mind that because the original Shenzi was kind of the leader of the cackle in the beginning. But for fuck's sake, they are hyenas. Have them joke around with each other. Have them fucking laugh. You have Eric fucking Andre playing a hyena, and you give him absolutely fuck all to do in this movie. I think he had like 3 lines in its entirety. At that point, why even fucking hire him? Honestly, a lot of the casting decisions made for this movie were fucking baffling, but I'm not even gonna get too far into it. I kinda like how they showed Scar and the hyenas teaming up, and they did a good job of making the hyenas fucking terrifying. But there was not even a shred of personality to be seen with any of these hyenas. Shenzi was the typical headstrong, vicious matriarch. Bankai and Azizi were basically pointless. If you can't even make hyenas interesting to a person with a hyena persona, what the fuck are you doing wrong? The realistic style of everything also made it virtually impossible to tell which character was who. And that's not just a problem for the hyenas, that's with literally every character. Number 4. Can you feel it?
Can you feel the love tonight? What? What the fuck?
Yeah, everyone's made the point that the scene is in broad daylight, but the real problem I have with this is that whoever mastered the tracks on this song had no idea how to balance 2 different people singing. By that I mean Beyonce is overpowering Donald Glover's voice, and it is painfully noticeable. You almost can't tell that this is a duet, rather you would think that this is just Beyonce singing solo. I have no strong opinions on Beyonce, crucify me for not liking her music or whatever. I'm more of a Marilyn Manson type of person. So that being said, this might be my own opinion and nobody else shares this, but I just feel as though there's a little too much Beyonce in this track, which I think is solely the responsibility of whoever mastered the tracks. I get that audio balancing is hard, but if you're releasing a movie to millions of people, it's imperative that you get it correct. Number 5. Redundant. You may have noticed that I haven't put spoilers anywhere in this video, nor in the title or description. That's because if you've seen the original Lion King, you have seen this movie already. I stated previously that there was new things added in, but they were so minor and inconsequential to the main storyline. Not only that, but the majority of the lines in this movie were directly pulled from the original. And I mean word for word pulled from the original. I know a lot of people get scared whenever there's a remake because they want it to stay true to the original, but I feel like this is just a bit excessive. What is even the point of this remake? Is it just to show that Disney can make really realistic animals? I mean, we've already seen that they can do that with the Jungle Book. This just seems redundant. This is just the original Lion King, but the colors are dulled. There's no expression whatsoever. The line delivery is botched. It's too fast-paced because they're just trying to get to the next plot point that was in the original. and the music is subpar at best. Again, I really had high hopes for this movie because I wanted to see a fresh new take on The Lion King. Instead, I just got a shittier version of The Lion King. The few things that they did add really worked, especially the comedy. I don't know why they were afraid to change more, because the dynamic between Timon and Pumbaa was fucking hilarious. Even Zazu had a good zinger in the beginning. It's almost like the studio had a tight grip on the IP, telling them, there's no way you can add too much to this. We are sticking to what's safe and has worked before. And it's disheartening because I would have really liked to see what they could have done if they had more freedom. Disney basically shot themselves in the foot on this movie. Disney basically pulled a Shadow of a Colossus. They re-released the game with better graphics. That's all that was done. This is why I'm holding the live-action movie to the standards of the original one, because it's the exact same fucking movie. Number 6, Furious the Monkey Boy. I have a feeling no one understood that reference. Rafiki was so underused in this movie. The first word he says is more than halfway into the movie. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought Rafiki was a lot more prominent in the original. You could actually take Rafiki out of this movie and almost everything would be the same. The only reason why he's in this is because of the Remember Who You Are scene. Rafiki is my third favorite character from this series, and I honestly feel as though my boy got the short end of the staff. That's another thing. He pulls his staff out of a burrow in the tree and says, "Ah, my old friend," as if this holds any significance to the audience. It's really funny because the music swells up and you know this was Disney's big nostalgia moment. I guess the writers and director just didn't know what to do with Rafiki, so they just kind of forgot about him for most of the movie, which is fine, I guess. Again, if this wasn't a remake and this was just a standalone movie, I wouldn't have any problems with that. But it's not. It's relying on the original for everything, including the script, and yet they're throwing away one of their most recognizable characters. Conclusion. The only reason why you should watch this movie is for the few jokes that they added in that weren't from the original. And even then, I wouldn't pay a full movie ticket just to watch that. Visually, this is stunning. This is probably one of the most high production value animated films of all time. That being said, good visuals does not a good movie make. The story is completely rehashed. A lot of the line delivery is flat. There's not a lot of chemistry between any of the characters. So much so that when Simba is crying over Mufasa's dead body, there was no emotional impact. These characters felt like they were in separate rooms of each other, which is not good. Timon and Pumbaa had probably the best chemistry in this entire fucking film. But that doesn't award you a gold star, that's expected. When Nala and Simba reunite, it feels incredibly forced and out of nowhere. It's just weird. It's like all of the emotional impacts in the original movie are completely gone. Anyways, that's my take on the live-action Lion King 2019. If you need a shirt for when you're just lying around, or maybe one of my jokes in this video made you cackle, why don't you support me by buying this new shirt that's now on my Teespring, link in the description down below. Because let's be honest, I'm a better Yena Queen Vincenzi. Thank you guys so much for watching. That's all I got.